Going to be playing a little bit of Everquest tonight. Got a little group going on here. McMurphy is going to be leading the way. Mage here. I'm a Shadow Knight. Let me back up a little bit. So there we are. Basically, we're just going to be going in there, killing some stuff in the yard, and then if a group forms, moving in wherever. I'm going to be trying to be as involved in that as possible, but I'm going to be talking, so it's going to be hard. I've never actually grouped and done this before. This is like a first attempt for me, so this is going to be fun. But yeah, so hopefully it sounds okay. I couldn't get the EQ to open up, so things are going to be a little bit weird until I figure out how this sounds, dude. I just pulled this thing out of the box and it's like, all right, sounds good enough. Let's go. Yeah, so there's always going to be problems from that. Got to get going here. The goal tonight was to hit Unrest. This is one of my favorite zones. Like, this is the obsession of my life right here, going into Unrest. People have no idea how much I love this. Like, how bad my obsession with this is, dude. I grew up doing this. This was the most important thing ever when I was growing up. I was by myself. I had the game to play. I had nothing else. I was like a weird kid, and it was perfect. So it was right at the beginning of this whole MMO thing that we're doing now and beyond. It's funny. MMO was like a thing that weird people did, and now that's like the subscription for life. Basically, everything's a subscription now. This is what it is. You subscribe to this game, and you can go and you can play with people. And that was appealing because you couldn't really do that before. I was like, I'm just old enough to remember the transition between those things. But it was, I mean, I was really young when we were able to finally do it. This wasn't the first game to do it. I mean, we went on and did stuff from here. This was like the, I don't know, third or fourth game that I played that was somewhat online and like this. And suddenly it was like, oh man, look at this. We're in a 3D world now. It's not like text and weird 2D pictures and stuff. So it's been cool. But yeah, we're going to run in here. We're just going to be killing some yard trash. I made a few trades this week. I need to talk about them. So I want to get going here. We'll see what we've got. McMurphy's going to be leading the way. We'll see where we go. He's got that mage pet. I've got my terrible Shadow Knight pet, but whatever. It's a brand new one, actually. It's higher level. Let's see. Have I checked this yet? 5? Is that the same pet? I don't know. Okay, I think it's the same level. It's a new pet. Why is it the same level? Unless I didn't get rid of it from the last. No, I cast it right before I came out here. The whole thing was like, I got to get this pet going just in case I get attacked. It's the sacrificial lamb, dude. That's the good thing about being a Shadow Knight. It's just enough stuff as a tank to be able to do cool things. Like, I have a sacrificial lamb that's not good enough to do much. But, hey, having a pet's better than not, because just having an NPC, since NPCs are overpowered compared to regular characters. Oh, and I get a damage shield. Here we go. This is how it's done. So I've got my buffs off screen because I was trying to keep everything as condensed as possible. Because I got the charts over here. I made a trade on the stock that's up. I'll talk about that in a bit. But first, let's see. Everybody's looking decent. I guess McMurphy needs to med a little bit. Get some mana up. I'm going to run in here. Look at this zones, right? Here's the thing that was completely normal back then and now is weird in a game. Zones. An area where it stops and it has to load a new area. Everything's seamless now and has been for a long time. And it's very interesting to see the transition between this and that. So it's cool. And I got to love zones because zones are a safety. They're like an artificial dream, basically. You get to run to an area and everything just stops. All the consequences of whatever's going on stop. Don't you wish you could do that? And anytime it's like, oh, I'm about to get hit by a car, let me run to the zone. I can just dive to the zone and I'm good. I'm not going to get smashed. If I fall off a cliff, I could just cast a like zone potion or whatever. So it's interesting to see how things have changed. But I don't know. It's like a metaphor. We all want that. We want that ability to kind of be, I don't know, to have a reset, have a pause, have a stop. And that's what video games gave us. Even if it was live, you could still log off. And your dude's still your dude. 20 years later, he still looks exactly the same. And you didn't have to go to the gym to maintain any kind of physique and didn't get fatter like everybody else does, It's just the same dude. He's got all the same equipment. He's ready to go. He's got magic, just enough magic to keep him going, but not enough to really do much. So, all right, I'm full. It looks like McMurphy's full. Whatever we're ready, we're going to zone in. So I'm just going to run in there. But we saw a bunch of people come out. That's one thing that might mean there was a train, which this zone was notorious for, but we're going to run into it. All right, here we go. There's people coming out. Let's go see what's in there. You know what, though? The good thing is sometimes trains don't come in one whole piece. It's like you might have a little bit, and then the bulk of it hadn't gotten here yet. And by the time they zone, they just get out of there. So you can get some random mob you wouldn't normally get sitting right there that you can kill. Like, oh, nice. It drops the thing I need. And normally you got to go in there to do that. So we're going to get going. We're memorizing some spells. This week was interesting because last week we had the whole Fed thing. And then this week was the reaction to the Fed thing. And I'm going to rebuff. No, I'm good. I got 17 minutes on that. So I'm going old school. I have nothing going on tonight. It's just these. In fact, I'm just going to put these on screen here. So there's my buffs right now. I don't have any kind of SAO or EXP boost or any of that stuff that I normally do. Oh, look at this, a skeleton right here. Let's get it. Boom. I'm just going to attack it. I'm not even going to look and see if he's doing it or if McMurphy's even ready. I'm just going to go for it because we can do it. This NPC pet is enough. And you don't have to do anything else. If you didn't cast any spells, just me being able to fight this thing with an NPC or 2 NPCs is great because NPCs do more damage than you. No matter what you do, no matter how good your stats are, NPCs are always better somehow. So it's nice to just have one. That's why these classes, Necro and Mage, are overpowered because they have NPCs that are powerful. Mine is but as the game goes on, it builds up. It's okay, yeah, it's 30 when we're all like 50 or 60, but that's way better than nothing. A 30 is actually, like, the difference between a 30 and like a 50 is not all that much, really. But the difference between like a 1 and a 5 or a 5 and a 10 is huge. So as the game goes on, it really doesn't matter quite as much. Oh, we're on a death beetle. Hold on, you know what I need to do? I need to make an assist button right here. So I am going to, I changed everything. So how do I do this? Assist, there we go. I want to take this out and put it on McMurphy. All right, hopefully that's right. McMurphy, okay. So now when I press assist, it'll just automatically turn attack on and get me pointed at whatever McMurphy's attacking, which is great because he's going to lead the way tonight. He knows what's up. He's been here. McMurphy used to play back in the day. He's got some experience. He did all kinds of classes, but now he's going with Mage, which I think is a good choice because Mage is fun. That's what I did a couple of years ago when Mischief was new. I jumped on a Mage because I thought, man, Mages have the pet. They can have these direct damage spells. You know, maybe they don't have the same things that like Wizards, Enchanters, and Necros do, but just that pet or the variety of pets, one that can root, one that damages, one that stuns, one that has a damage shield, so you can use them for different situations, which is great. So that's why they're a little bit more powerful than a Necro in some ways. Looks like some people are already here, but what's the size of their group? Maybe we can just like jump in on their group if they, I don't know, we got a couple of blues here and a red in the back. They're probably being leveled by some character, which is common in this thing. They're not doing well, so they're probably pretty low. What did it say they were? 13? Okay, so not that low. I mean, we're like, what am I, 15, 16 now? Oh, I think it's all messed up here. I'll have to bring this out. So I am 16. That's right. I just got to 16, got some random armor. Cool. See, this is all basic stuff, but back in the day, if you had that little stat boost works. And that's what I was saying about the levels too. It's not just the levels, it's the stats. When you have no stats, just having a little bit of something makes a huge difference. So if you can go and pick up just a bunch of AC stuff when you're really low level, that's great because then the stuff doesn't hit you as hard and you can actually have a chance. Because if you try soloing them, you'll get them like more than 3/4 or something like that and you'll lose. So if you just have a little bit of an advantage, that gets you right there. An AC or attack or whatever, some speed if you can get that, which is hard at lower levels. It's mostly going to be like attack and strength and AC and stuff like that. So we can do that. But I don't see anything in chat right now. I'm just kind of paying attention to both. Hey, Kajichi, how's it going? I was wanting to hear about your milkshake. I know that was random. The most random ass like commercial just happens to play out this like free ass account I got going. I'm not even classy enough to have like a paid music thing. I'm just throwing on what's it. That's how lurk this show is. I'm trying to get going for the most part. And I'm changing audio. I'm changing ways I do this thing. It's way more work than I thought, but hey, it's going. It's a chance for me to get my ideas out and talk about what I'm trying to talk about. So actually what I wanted to talk about was Virgin Galactic. There's been a lot of news about it, and I randomly and luckily played it in both directions and was right. I was like, all right, here we go. I'm just going to take what I can take and go from there. So I want to talk about that a little bit. That's why I have that chart up over here, which I'll have to get to after I figure out what's going on. See, these guys are logging once this guy barn hits 14. All right. So they'll be gone pretty soon. I guess we can just go somewhere else then. Let me say in chat here. We can go wherever. Let's see. There we go. Boom. I'm just going to run up in it. I'm going first person. So the whole goal behind this is going from the 99 perspective at this point. This is a TLP server, time lock progression. It means it's starting at the classic version of the game, and it's slowly opening up the expansions over time to kind of simulate what it was like back in the day. But there are modern changes to the game, obviously, so it can work with everything, and also because some things are just more convenient. And we learned over time. This was an early game, so a lot of things were done terribly. I mean, that's one of the things I love about the game is some of the weird stuff that used to have to happen because nobody knew what was going on. It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, it's terrible sometimes. There'd be... You only had so far to go in the game, so they had to limit things more. Now everybody, you get things all the time. It's this like constant reward system. This game was not that. I mean, this game was rough after a while. In the beginning, yeah, it's not so bad, but it quickly got rough. And match that with the fact that you've never played a game like this before when this came out. Most people didn't even have computers. And suddenly computers are in here and games like this are in your face after you're watching like game shows and stuff like that on TV for 50 years. It's insane. So now we've got this, and we're fighting skeletons in Unrest, which used to be my obsession, man. I loved Unrest. This is one of my favorite zones. So what we're doing right now is we're looking for a place to hang out and just kind of pull some stuff. And if we get a group going, that would be cool, but it depends upon how long the stream goes. Really, I'm just trying to run around and get some stuff. Will-O-Wisps, Tormented Dead, perfect. Let's get this one because it's going on McMurphy. What's up, Taunt? Got to get it. The pet. His pet can take that thing. See, that's what's really nice about it. Look at that. His pet is over there just fine. It's the green line over here. It's barely lost anything. If I had extended target, I would be able to see what the mummy was at or the Tormented Dead was at. But right now, I'm just trying to take things off of him, and I should be actually doing stuff like casting DOTs on it. And I should be also casting Snare on it. Clinging Darkness, which is a DOT and a Snare. Oh, can you imagine being a fighter, being able to keep your shield so you can bash and stun, which is so important when people are casting spells. And then being able to DOT and be able to snare things so they can't run free. I mean, so many different... It was so hard to just be a warrior without anything else. It was unbelievably hard. You'd think it would be easy. And at first, it's easier than anything else because all you're doing is just run up, smash. Like me, smash. It's very simple mindset. But it can be strategic if you really wanted to. Although being something like this means you have options to be strategic. It's not just like you have to make maneuvers. It's more you have the ability to feign death at some point. That's an amazing... Only a couple classes could do that. Monks can do it. Necros can do it. Shadow Knights can do it. I don't know if there's other ways. There's probably clicked items that can do that. But right now, we're just in here looking for some poles, hanging out at the corners, which is what people normally do. You come through here since this is kind of a safe way to run back to the zone if you need to. So being right here is nice. There's usually a group there, a group at the gazebo, maybe a couple groups in the back. And then you start getting people that will go into the house here. There's a room in the back that's good for lower levels, and then there's a couple rooms in the front, but mostly main room, which now has to be the only one. I mean, you can't really have too many other camps with how people pull now. I mean, we know the game. There's no mystery in it. It used to be hard, and also things used to be different. It wasn't always fair either. Like games are so much. I mean, there are games that are cheap. Yes, I get it, but there's cheapness in all games in some way. But this, because they had to keep you going, and there was a gambling mindset to it, it had to be like stupidly unfair sometimes. And that would just set you into a rage. It was like the whole thing was your obsession for a week and you were having so much fun making progress. It's making you do better in life because it's making you feel better. You're playing something, you're doing well. So when you're doing other stuff, you're more into it. You're not as worried about it. You're not as anxious. That helps, but at a certain point it becomes like too much of a burden because you have to really compete with the high levels. You have to play for a long time. And there was no tab targeting. I say that all the time, but that was annoying. I'm playing with the mouse because that's what people did. You played in first person. You played with the mouse. Only the really, really in the know people played with the keyboard because it was like the keyboard was the 80s. This was the late 90s, early 2000s, right at the turn of the millennium. Think about everybody's attitude. You have any idea how much attitude you had to have around the fucking millennium? Like we're the ones that are seeing the millennium and we're the generation that's going to shape it and shit like that. You don't know that things take a lot longer to change than you realize. So you're like, fuck, man. Oh, everything's crazy. But that's why you end up in a place like this. So all your worries are like, I'm going to run the worries into this game. And, okay, I got to make sure you're still here. I'm worried just running off and I'm standing here by myself. Which, you know what? I could probably be okay. I'm level 16 now. We both were in the house fighting. So that's what I forgot. we actually did well. We had a group last night in here in the main room, which is great. It's like the front. There's basically room for 2 groups now. There's the main room, and then there's the round room, which is way in the back. There's a big corridor that separates it with some random names that you can pull to kind of keep everybody satisfied. And now we know the layout, but back in the day, it was all a big mystery. It was so much fun. It looks really cheesy, but that's all you had, and you really don't need anything. You think about every generation's video games, all the way from like Pong and even earlier than that probably, to stuff like this, to what we have today, and then what we're going to have with all the virtual stuff and the improving graphics, just the sensory input. Oh man, it's unbelievable. But there's something to be said about sitting behind a machine and just pulling and doing stuff. So I don't know how to get the loot going. Never mind, there it goes. All right, you got it. Yeah, it's annoying. That's the one thing I don't have the loot going right now. But when you're the leader of the group, you have to deal with what happens with all the loot, and that's fine, which is actually good because then it allows efficiency. But at the same time, if it's like somebody that's not cool, they can do not cool stuff. But that's any kind of control mechanic. So the loot, but it's confusing because you're trying to fight. If you on the default setting, it's just popping up all the time. And you're trying to concentrate on the game, but every time there's something that comes up, there's a loot window, and then you start thinking, other people are done with this. I'm new. I need to hurry up and get this because they're waiting on me and they're annoyed. But it's like most people don't even care. They're just trying to play. They don't even. Most people like reject everything because they already have all this money and you're paranoid about it. But that's how it goes. And it's real life. Sometimes people will care. Sometimes your fears or your worst fears come true, but then you move on from that. And most of the time they don't. Most of the time, it's normal. That's what we have to get in our heads, is that, like, it's usually okay. We're putting things up to such a high gear that we can't bring ourselves down. It's like an engine. You're revving it up so high that you might break it. And the ability to bring it down doesn't mean it's going to instantly stop. It means it has to wind down. So we're not letting everything wind down. That's why we're in so much trouble mentally and politically and financially and you name it. Like, it's just, we're on this extreme path and we're kind of stuck with momentum, but we can make changes. And that's what we're kind of doing over time. I mean, it seems I'm optimistic because things didn't happen as fast as I thought. And I think that's what happens with most people. You grow up, you're a little kid, things move real quick or really slowly. So you think things take longer than they do. And then as you build overhead over time, things move a lot faster. Because you're thinking about 85,000 things that you've told yourself. You've built circuits into your brain. There's like this little fresh brain of a kid, and then there's this just completely bogged up brain of an adult or an older person. That gets, and the more time goes on, the more you have, the harder it is to fix. It's just unbelievable. You think of all the possible trajectories of everything. You could be going in any of those directions, and stopping it is like, you can't just stop it. You got to go with it, man. That's how it is. It's like you're going in the direction you're going. You're kind of like blown into this world, and you got to deal with the inertia that you have. So coming in here and pulling some stuff is nice because it lets you forget about all the bullshit and just fight things and win and get little dopamine hits like, yay, I got to kill a beetle. I got a thing. I can sell this. This is money right here, and then I buy something better, and I can kill things better. Eventually, you got a cool weapon. You don't have these giant crazy things that people have today, but you just go. So I don't know if he's trying to pull arms. I'm just going to follow him because we can go towards the back. That works. We don't have to stay right at the corner, or maybe I should stay at the corner. I don't know. I'm just going on instinct right now because that's like running on a point, and now we have to go find things. But there's nothing out. You know why? Because there's some crazy group with a high level pulling everything in the yard. Oh, here's a death beetle over here. Where are we going? Oh, we got stuff over here too. Nice. Let's see what we can get. I want better than a death beetle at some point, but we got to get there first. All right. So that's what I was talking about before. It's nice to be able to use different spells, having spells at all. So I have one that allows me to heal myself, which is great. It's not a huge heal. You can think, oh, Shadow Knight only has a basic thing. Yeah, I know, but that's more than enough. It's more than you realize. And while you're standing out here, things pop. That's kind of the good thing about it. You can guarantee that at some point you're going to get popped by something if you're just standing out here in the open. And here we are. We're fighting a death beetle. And I've got a pet that is still alive. I don't pay attention to it most of the time because it's so weak that it doesn't make much of a difference, but it's nice to have because it follows things and beats them up. And since it's an NPC, it at least does some damage over time. And eventually will kill it if you can't get to it. So that's absolutely wonderful. You don't have that as a regular fighting class. And you don't have that as a paladin. You don't have that as a ranger. I mean, I guess maybe rangers get some kind of little thing with animals, but maybe paladins have something too. I don't know. But it's mostly Shadow Knights. They're the fighters with the stuff. You know, I guess later on Beast Lords, because they get their pets or whatever. Originally, though, with the original classes, this was it. And if I had been, would have rather been a Shadow Knight than a warrior. But that's what I was. I was a warrior at heart. I wanted to run in there and fight. And I was like first person because there was no tab targeting and it was hard to see things. So if your character's in the way like this, you're trying to click on things, you're clicking on yourself. Look, I'm not fighting the thing right now because I'm clicking on myself. So you run in here, you click the thing, you do that. There's no tab targeting. And they have not put it in, which I don't know. Maybe it's harder than you think, or maybe that's part of the appeal of it because this is how it used to be. So it adds a layer of difficulty. You got to do this, and then you can't just be all crazy about it. You got to actually have precision, which is nice. It's kind of fun to do something once in a while. I remember having people watch me play this game, like, so you just stand there and then auto attacks? It's like, well, yeah, I guess for my class, but if I was in other class, it would look cool doing all this stuff I'm not even doing right now because you don't need to do it. Like, we're fighting stuff that's below our level, and we're making experience. I have no EXP buffs. I just have this little basic buff that I can cast on myself. Here we go. And I'm going to go back here over to wherever McMurphy's sitting. Oh, he needs some mana, so we're going to be medding for a second. Got to see what's going on. So perfect. I'm still pretty much good, but I'll take a seat. I could have been using Life Tap to get some, or Life Spike now because I had an upgrade. I like to put the old one on because in case it's absolute last minute, last ditch effort type thing. I still have at least one more go. The other day or a few streams ago, I was running around and be falling. I got my ass kicked, and I revived myself like 3 times with the spell, and it was hilarious because I couldn't do anything, but it just let me come back over and over and over again, and they didn't quite kill me. And even when I thought I was dead, they ran away because of the pathing and how everything used to work. But I'm like sitting there, I'm still alive? And then they come back and destroy me. This spell could help. Even if it didn't actually get me out, it was hilarious. So there's some value to it. I'm into the spell. I'm for the comedic value. I'm into having this thing take up a positive slot that I could be doing something else with. So all right, looks like we got some pulls over here. So I need to get into this. I had a few interesting trades recently. I think in the last little gameplay episode where I didn't talk that much, I was saying I had the trade on the debt ceiling, and that went well because the debt ceiling was obvious. We were going to pass it. You should for stuff like that. If you're going to be doing stuff like this, I'm not saying should for anything. I don't give financial advice. I'm just talking about my opinion. If you're talking about the generic sphere of the whole thing, like it'd be good to have something in that direction. It would be better to bet for it than bet against it, because if you bet against it and you're right, you're going to have other problems. And if you bet for it and you're right, well, there you go. Oh man, I did the mouse. Look at this downside of the mouse. It's not as fast. It'll be nice when we have new expansions and I can play more in a modern style, I guess. Because this is how I'm doing it. I'm staying up close. Right now I'm going to back it up. Boom. I'll play like this a little bit just to appease the people that need it, because I know it's weird to play first person. Hey, I like it. That's what I grew up with. It was like immersing myself. Yeah, I know it's fake as hell, but still, when you don't have anything else, it's amazing. You don't need much. So I was trying to say earlier, people that are playing Pong were doing stuff like this. It's like people were obsessing over 2-bit games and less, even games that were so much weaker than that. As long as there have been stuff like this, there have been obsessions over it. So something like this is amazing compared to that. Take any of those generations and be like, hey, would you rather play this than that? They would be like, yeah. See people do things? That would be amazing. In color. They don't even know what color is at the time that they're trying to develop some of this stuff. So that's amazing. Just be in this era and have this be old. Have something, because it's amazing to be the first generation to experience a technology and a lifestyle, and then suddenly realize that it's old because time has passed. Like the older you get, the faster things go. It's so true. And I think it's because of the overhead. People debate all this stuff, and I'm just like, well, a computer, the more shit that is on it, the more likely you're going to have to reload it at some point. And that's kind of what happens in life, too. You just put a bunch of stuff on it based on your experience and what you do to correct it or to adjust it. And then you end up with all this overhead that slows everything down. It can't perceive things as quickly because it has to go through the filter every time it processes any little piece of information. You've been traumatized by things so bad, it's taken up your mental bandwidth. We are out here in the open. We should probably be back here. In fact, well, I don't know. I guess we're back out there. Let's do this. My pet's going to go. No. I don't even know why I try. Things just, it's a level 5. I could probably cast. That's the sad thing about today's game. I could probably cast this and actually get the pet going right now. You would have never been able to do that back in the day. You'd be getting absolutely murdered by these things. Although I am a bit higher than most of them now. I keep forgetting that we made a few levels last night. It's actually doing pretty well. So I need to get back to the topic of... I'm going to start actually casting some life spike just in case. I'm losing some hit points here. And there's no... Oh, you know what? There's no more things, so maybe we should back up a little bit. Let's, well, I don't know. We're doing alright. We're doing alright. I'm just going to stay out here and finish this stuff up. Hit this with the life spike. I'm getting 12 now. See, I was getting 6 before. I thought it was more, but it was only 6. So I got to see what we're going on in chat here. Teaching my kid tomorrow how to play some Nintendo games and Super Metroid. There you go. See, showing this generation that where everything started. That's like, it's weird old shit to say, but it's good to know how things got to where they are because it makes things make so much more sense. You know, things seem crazy when you don't have a foothold of where you come from and where you're going and where everything is kind of like pointing. So it's nice to have something like this to just sit back, relax, not have to think about all the stuff, and recharge yourself so that you can continue going in the best direction possible. That's the point, to get yourself back on your feet. And speaking of which, McMurphy needs to med for a little bit. I probably do as well, so I'm going to go ahead and sit. And I'm going to move the camera a little bit so we're like, bam, there we go. Oh, we're going for something. He's going for something. A death beetle. His pet can take a death beetle. Let's see. Let's watch this thing. Him and I both have to med, so I'm going to turn, though. I want to see the actual battle. One death beetle. Yeah, his pet can take a death beetle. I need to med up. He needs to med up. Let's see what's going on. Because if I attack, then the little symbol up here will change, and I won't be able to rest as well. And that was the thing. That was the big thing with this game. Rest time. Downtime. People don't like downtime. People can't handle downtime. It's not even a fact of, oh, it's just an annoyance. It's like people literally are so trained to quick rewards that they can't handle this. And this is not even that long. It's just, it's unbelievable. This right here was the big change in all the games. They just made it so everybody could actually play and not have to wait 20 minutes. Like, try to fight something, fail, run to the zone, and then have to try to med up and go back and do it again. It takes you 20 minutes after that to get everything back up. You know, and then maybe somebody took the thing while you were gone, and there's just stuff that's too low or too high. It was crazy. So yeah, the pet was doing well. That's right, McMurphy, go pet. I was watching that and thinking, this is why I say these things are so nice. The pet. Oh, here we go. Oh, we got another one. I'm gonna keep sitting here because it's taking me forever. I have 0 buffs. That's why this is taking forever. Well, we got a Tormented Dead. I guess I could start actually being a Shadow Knight and using it to, boom, get some health. Let's do this. What do we got? Get this thing. Taunt. Put it under Disease Cloud. Here we go. And now, using it to take health. It's not much, but if you look at my health up in the top right, it's slowly going up every time I cast that. Oh, but when it dies, I can't do it anymore. So now I come over to this Death Beetle instead of worrying about fighting it. Dang, right before. That was funny. Okay. That's what happens sometimes. You think like, all right, I'm going to do this spell, and then you wasted everything. Back in the day, it was like, I think it used to take mana from you at some point. Some spells you could, no, maybe you had to go through with it and it just didn't have to work. I don't know. But if you fizzled, it took mana. Boom, I'm going to get this thing too because we're in it. And I want to try to get some life tap off of this thing. Oh, we pulled it. What are you doing? You're actually paying attention to the game? Yes, I am paying attention to the game because I want this 4 life spike. Pull some stuff out here. See, it's going up. Just sitting here doing this. I'm not worrying about stabbing it because his pet's stabbing it. I'm just spamming life spike with the mouse. So that's how we do back in 99. Spam with the mouse. It's the future. You forget 1999, 2000. That's the future. People have been talking about the millennium for the whole century, or more than that. The whole millennium. People have been talking about the millennium for the whole millennium. So, you know, now that you're the one that actually gets to experience it, it's crazy. Crazy. Got McMurphy sitting up here thinking like, why is he pulling that? I don't know, because I wanted to get some life, which seems a little bit better now. So I'm going to sit in bed. See, I've got this hourglass. That means that it's not going to give me as much. Let's say, oh, here we go. Tormented dead. I'm going to do it again. So if I just stop using magic for a while, then my mana will recharge, but I'll have some health, and that's the point. Using it to just heal myself. So just saying about the downtime, it's quicker to do this. It's quicker to get in battles than it is to med. Can you believe that? That's the reality of this class. It's so much better than any other fighter class because you can do that. I guess Paladin can do it too, but you have to change your target to yourself, which doesn't help. This, yeah, you're not going to heal like a Paladin, which after a while becomes insane. A Paladin only needs to heal himself once or twice, then you're good. You got Jack-o'-lantern right here. Boom. Fighting the Jack-o'-lantern. First person. Here we go. Let's back this up and look. Here we go. It's going to die anyway. Make an experience. And it tells you how much experience you're making. We even have a bar right here. This blue bar didn't used to be in it. It used to just be a gold bar, and it would get super slow. Because 50 was the max. And they needed to keep you for a while. You know, I haven't got any loot thing yet. So it's probably randoming it. Look at this. He's going to get it. Oh, we got it. You got it. So yeah, after this, we're both going to need to med a little bit. So I'll talk about that stock I've been trying to talk about the whole time. That's what we'll get through this fight, and then I'll get into the actual stocks because I had a couple of good trades. The last, like I was saying, the last one was the debt ceiling trade, and then I think I had like a couple of little things in there that didn't go anywhere, so I just kind of stepped out of them. But this one was Virgin Galactic, ticker SPCE. That's what we have written down up here. Let me go sit real quick. How are we looking? Everything's looking good. Sit and back up. All right. We'll just kind of get everything going here while we med. I have to switch over to the other screen. So Virgin Galactic, let's minimize that. That's not the one I'm looking for. Oh, I didn't get out of this. I need to get out of this. Makes noises. I can't have it be making noises on me. Get out of that. Okay, so this is where we are with Virgin Galactic. This was coming into Thursday, and we had this nice pump on Thursday because of the space flight. They have a space flight scheduled. It's happening between June 27th and June 30th, which is next Tuesday to Friday, I think. And that popped everything. And then people are like, oh, the reality of the stock, the reason it was so low in the first place is still real. So we're going to come down a little bit. And then I'm going to get in on that here. So hold on one second. Let me get on and I'll keep going. Stand. Keep going. That one. Hit that assist. Get it. Taunt it. Bash it. I don't even need to cast that, but I'm doing it anyway. Just in case. So yeah, it pumped because of that ship launch thing, which is huge for them. People are not taking into account that this company is a real company, and that's actually huge. Even as long as if it happens and it's successful, those are the two different things. They might delay it, which is pretty likely with a lot of these stocks, and the reason it's so low is because stuff like that happens. I wouldn't be surprised if they delayed it a couple of times or even just once before they did it. But it could happen next week, and if it does, and it's successful, that's going to be extremely bullish for the stock because it'll show that they can actually do it, especially with everything that's been going on with high value tourism lately. You know what I'm saying? Like they gotta get this thing going, and if it goes well, then hey, that's profitable for them. So they're gonna do that. But then at some point they decided to have an offering. Why? Because they need money to do everything. They're launching a fucking spaceship. You think that's cheap? They're diluting the share count to take money to do that. That's what stocks are for. People are like, well, why do you want to have like a piece of a company? Well, because you can make a lot of money if they're a good company. But if they're not, they're just going to take money from the shareholders over and over. And as a shareholder, you're agreeing to just lend them your money. That doesn't mean that the price is stable and they're trying to, it's like, no, if they want to take some of that, they can take some of that. That's the point. That's how businesses go. It's a way to finance things, give people jobs, and actually make things work with capital. Although if it's abused, then you get the problems we have today. So that's what's going on with that. And they're a real company. They're trying to actually have a launch here. And if they do, that'll be great. If it launches, I want to try to watch it. I don't know if I'll be able to because my schedule's so finicky. But I'm also trying to set this thing up so that I can do this on a moment's notice if I need to, because there are certain events that you have to watch the stocks for. Even if it's after hours, it's only like futures or whatever trading. It's worth it to do sometimes. So I want to make sure I have that capability and be able to jump on with people that are actually interested in that. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm playing games here, even though it's old school games. Trying to get on and talk about stocks because I think it's important to learn about finance. I'm not trying to be a financial advisor or do anything like that. I'm just trying to talk about what I do and what my opinions are based on it being an amateur and just coming from nothing and all, like nothing as far as the knowledge of all this, to actually being able to do something with my money, to grow my money in some way. It doesn't matter if it's what you're trying to do or if it's something else. As long as you figure out a way to actually grow your money and it works consistently, that's great. Right now, if I hadn't been doing this, then basically everything I'd be doing with money would be either saving it or wasting it. And then at some point you can use it to actually grow in other ways. You can grow it with just itself. You can use it to grow capital through any number of markets. It doesn't have to be the stock market or the options market, the crypto market, which are the three that I mostly deal with. It can be anything. It can be the bond market. It can be other derivatives. It can be other types. It can be a fund. It can just be cash or currency. The FX market is huge. It's foreign exchange. It's where all the dollar and versus everything else kind of stuff happens. But right now, what I'm looking at is Virgin Galactic. They had their pump, and then they announced the offering, and they had their dump. I had calls on Virgin Galactic months ago, maybe even last year. It's been quite a while since I bought these leaps for 2024. So I still had plenty of time on them, but it was getting to the point where when you trade leaps and you're getting into the months instead of years, it's like, I don't like that. I want to be out before that point. And somewhere like between that over a year and year mark is when I want to be out. If I can be out by a year, great. But with this one, it was getting close. So it popped huge all of a sudden, more than it should have, more than it would have in the past. Oh, I just sat. That's what I was trying to do. And it's already dead. Okay, thanks, McMurphy. That's why I like these pets. I'm telling you, they're overpowered. Just killed that thing. I sat down and then stood back up because I wasn't paying attention. And now I've lost my train of thought with the whole thing. So yeah, they dumped. So I had those. Yeah, I had the calls, and I've had them forever. They didn't really. What was neat? Boom. I hate this stuff. My loot window wasn't up. I should do that real quick. You can't really see it. So yeah, this is the loot window. It's annoying. There's all this stuff. I've already selected most of it, but I hadn't selected the sort. I have it turned off right now, so I've been missing little things. Not turned off, but only notifying me of really crazy things, which means I'm missing a bunch of regular stuff that to the game is just but to me, since I'm a greedy bastard, is everything. Because I want all this stuff. If it's worth 1 copper and it takes like 50 pounds, 50 stones, whatever. I forget what the game's measured in, but it just takes a bunch of your ability to carry stuff. Hey, I want it because I want that 1 copper. I need that 1 copper. I don't have anything else. But that mindset is what gets you into trouble because you could drop that thing and carry way more. I didn't get that at a young age. It was more, I just need to get it. I have my eyes on this one goal. I'm not paying attention to everything else, but paying attention to what's going on is important. And that's what I was doing in the market. I thought this stock normally has a huge rebound if it pumps like this, which is why I wanted to have why I wanted to have those contracts to begin with, because they could just pump at any given moment. This stock is usually like this. This is the norm for this stock. So I got in months ago and got out when most of the sad part, here's the worst part of the whole thing. I've been holding them for so long and the value had decayed so much that on this recent creep up in price and premium, I decided to unload most of the contracts that I had in my long account. I had all these contracts that I knew it. I bought them at the best time, not the best time, but a really good time. And they were up by so much. I just thought, I didn't even have to hold for another day and a half. Maybe not. It could have been a day. I think it was like the day beforehand. I dumped most of this. What are we doing? We got it. Okay, it's off. It's on. I want it on. Yeah. So anyway, I lost what I was doing with that one. Man, I wish we had extended target. That's the closest thing we have to tab target. It actually lets you click on the thing in a different window, so you don't have this stupid corpse in the way. I should be hitting assist. What am I doing? I'm not thinking. There you go. I'm distracted. Assist. His pet. Oh, he's looking at the pet. Dang, there we go. I should probably, I wonder if I can assist the pet. I think you can. That would be good. Have assist 2 be the pet. Have 1 be him, 1 be the pet. Oh, I don't know if I've ever actually tried that before. Target someone else's pet target. If that'll work. It might be geared towards actual players and not NPCs. Try it though. Assist. What is the pet? Let's see. Where are you, pet? Oh, it's gone. So I'm trying to like put it in his assist. Yeah. All right. Get out of that. So anyway, oh, that's stupid. Whatever. Cancel. That's fine. So anyway, I had those long calls. I got out of them. It was a nice gain. I got out of just the one that was left. You know, I kept all but one. It was a really, really sad day. So even though that call was up quite a bit, it's like I had so many of these a day and a half ago. This is awful. It's just I wanted to get out of it while I could. I mean, it dipped down and I didn't realize like how good of a spot I actually had. Okay, he's got a bed to cast a pet, so we'll just hang out for a little bit, and I might be able to pull something. But so yeah, I was. It's hard to keep track of all this. So I jumped out of the contracts, and we kind of hit this top. I'm gonna sit, go onto the screen. So we hit this top up here. It was kind of a double top if you look at a couple of days later. Each one of these little sections of volume was a day. I turned off the aftermarket because it was getting really just mangled up. It was hard to see. This is much clearer, even though it doesn't have the after hours highlighted, which I like because then it shows you the difference. Because most of these were during market hours if you see the volume. And the volume between off hours and on the market hours, it's huge. Especially look at these days, down days, huge down days. There's massive volume on those days. So my thought was, since the market's also doing its thing, and this is somewhat following the market, that's why I was pumping again, because it was just barely able to do that. It's such a low stock, but it was a real company. That's what people don't realize with penny stocks, which is this technically was at the time, and even though it went above that, it still mostly was because of its volatility. The fact that it had a real business, that was important. Once you don't have anything real to base that on, then your stock can fall so much faster than if you have real value. Because there's always a value the company can be sold for and all the shareholders can be paid back for if things are, kept within their capacity to do it, because some companies go way beyond that and you may not get paid back. That's why it's good to be a preferred shareholder or to hold different bonds or other derivatives that they have, because you'll get paid back before the regular investors. So it's, in some cases, not so much, but it depends on where you are, man. It depends on what you're doing. It's a whole thing. But if you own that and you get this nice little pump here, take the profit, get out, because this was just a huge pump compared to what it was. And even if I go back in time, it's still, look at that, it's down. It was going up for a bit, but it hit these tops around 5, and we were just kind of having sort of upward behavior with this bullish pump, which was a squeeze. This big of a move is going to be a squeeze. It has to be, because the amount of green candle movement in that amount of time tells you that there were too many sellers that needed to get out quickly and were willing to buy at any price, which is why this thing moved. If they're not willing to buy at any price, things aren't going to go that high before they start crashing again. Once things get too far out of whack in any direction, the algos will chew it back down to somewhat of a median eventually. Not super fast, but they'll do it at a rate that allows you to catch the movement for a little bit to either direction if you know the behavior of the stock. And that's important. I watch this stock all the time. I have for years. That's why I went for this. I didn't just jump on some stock I found the other day. It's like, I've been watching Virgin Galactic. I've owned Virgin Galactic. I've seen its behavior. That's why I keep buying it, because the volatility is so massive that you get stuff like this. Oh no, we got an error going on. I hope stuff's still going. Cool. Let's just continue. Let's get out of this. Hopefully the stream's still good. I just got some random ass error, but yeah. So I dumped out of those calls, and I saw this happening right here. I got some puts. I got out of them. Bounced again. We had this massive dump afterwards, which this little retest of the highs and then a rejection. was what told me, all right, it's time to get in on some. So I didn't get it up here at the top, but once it was getting up, I thought this is the time to start looking at it. And I was trying to get in once this higher high right here was not even reached, much less rejected. And it was only touched quickly back here. I mean, so when this price got up to 6.5, there were just so many people that wanted it that it just went boom right back down. Or I mean, sorry, so many people that wanted to get rid of it for a profit that it just went right back down. So they end up coming down this way. Oh, we got jack-o'-lantern. I got to get up and do some stuff. So we ended up coming down this way. I bought something to the downside, took my profit. Oh, good. It's done. Awesome. Took my profits and thought, all right, I don't know if I want to mess with this again right now, but I'm just going to sit. And then we had this pump, and it looked really good. Oh, I'm sorry. That's where I was. So we dropped. It came back up. You saw that the higher highs hadn't been retested. So that was when I got in. I didn't get in here. I got in over in here. Watching this pump hit this level, figure out what it wants to do, and then dump. Right? And then it sat down here overnight, early morning, eventually pumped back up because of the news and everything that was going on. And then there was more crazy news, like one of their board of directors just passed away the other day, suddenly. And that messed with the stock. And then there's this. You know, they have the offering, which is what set this thing. I think right here was when the offering actually happened. So they had this rebound, this retest, and something didn't seem right. When it came back down here, I thought, let's get in on this. In fact, actually, I don't think I was even down here. I think it was starting to go down, and I was looking at the thing like, this looks good. So somewhere in this area, it might have. I'm going to say above this, actually. So maybe I got closer to the top of this than I thought. But it was still coming down. I had the rejection to see. Like, it might have been when it bounced up here or here, because these are 4-hour candles, and I was watching it on a shorter timeline. But it looked good, so jumped right in. And then after hours, they give you an offering. Can you imagine that? Shorting the thing and then that very after hours announcement like that coming out? That is perfection. You never get that. I wish I was more weighted to the downside. I still got some decent plays, but they're not what they could have been because I wasn't expecting, after making a bunch of money to the upside and trying to protect my gains, I wasn't expecting them to have an offering after business hours, which is amazing. So I got that offering and boom, down here. Took most of it off, hanging on. Actually rolled some down. So I took everything off. And then after it kind of bounced around for a little bit, I thought, I'm in a more favorable position now that it's bounced. I'm going to go ahead and just try to roll what I had down a little bit. And in a sense, I'd be buying it new, but it's essentially just a roll down instead of a complete profit take, because normally I just take the profits and run. But with this and the movement, I wanted to have something else on the table in case stuff goes crazy. So if everything pops off tomorrow, I don't lose that much. It's a very tiny play. It's just something to see if we get more movement. Because if we got more movement, I'd be pretty pissed that I didn't take advantage of it on an offering. It's a fucking share offering. It's one of the most important events that happens in trading. And one of the best things that can happen is a bear. So the fact that I got like 80-something% of my money off the table, and I just have that last 20-ish, maybe even less than that percent, that's great. So I'm just sitting on that. That's really my thing right now. I expect a bounce because of how much this thing has moved, but it really depends upon what the market does and what happens with this launch. My goal with this play is to get out on Monday if there's a chance. So either Monday, it's going to go nuts because the launch is supposed to be between Tuesday and Friday. So I needed to get out before that. I didn't want to take the risk that it launches and it goes crazy and then suddenly these puts go to nothing. You know, I'd like to be on the upside if that actually happens. So what I'd like to do is take this play off the table, have a cheap little strangle, because things could go insanely right or wrong. Like if the thing goes off and they have a success, that shows that they're a real company even more than they already are, and that moves them higher hopefully based on that. It could at least. It may not in the end, because you never know. There's how much debt they're in. That's who the people are running it, what they're trying to do, how successful they actually are, and everything. There's so much that goes into everything. But they are at least a legitimate enough company to say, hey, I'm okay betting on this. It kind of goes to a low and doesn't really drop unless the market goes into a catastrophe. If the market's just having its normal little panic or one of the big ones, they have their little bottoms in their areas where they just kind of sit for a little bit before they bounce, even when other stuff isn't. Stuff was not bouncing. The market's been dropping quite a bit. And part of what fueled this was when we had that little relief from all that. These little pumps kind of coincided with some of that, I think. At least one of them did, because I remember thinking, oh, this is getting a boost. Or the market's going in the opposite direction, and this makes sense, but now it's getting a boost from it, which you have to pay attention to. People that don't pay attention to the overall market don't realize what they're missing. The overall market is dictating what the huge movements are. These are just the movements in the local area, which you can take advantage of if you know how it moves. And if you watch the stock long enough, you can figure out how it moves. That's why I say don't trade very often at all. If you're going to trade at all, trade rarely, like super, super rarely. And just the ones that you know have the best chance of success. This, for me, that's this. This one right now, with how it behaves, what the volume is, what it looks like, what the business actually says, it still lines up to go for this volatility play. I'm looking for squeezes. This company is heavily bet against. Maybe not as much as somebody else, but because it's such a hyped company, there are going to be a lot of people that just say, oh, I don't believe it. Because think about it. Most people don't believe the hype. People complain about all the popular stuff. Everybody has something popular that they complain about. And that's why movements like this can happen, because people don't understand what they're actually looking at. They're complaining about one aspect of everything. They're not complaining about the entire thing itself, because they don't see the entire thing itself. They just see this one little perspective. If you're able to expand your perspective as much as you can, which is not going to be enough to see everything, but it could be enough to see these little trends. And that's what I'm doing. Just an amateur looking at this for a long time, studying online, looking at all the stupid bullshit that they tell you that it's mostly fake, and then trying to try stuff and see what actually works with small amounts of money so that I can stay in the game until I can actually have a strategy that works. And once you have a few strategies that work, then you can start to form a real portfolio, a diverse portfolio. I have a long portfolio, and I have this trading. It's not even one account. I have 2 trading accounts. I have a crypto account, and then I have my long account. So I have all this stuff set up, so if one goes down there, the other one's continually going. And the trading accounts are not funded anywhere as near as much as the long account is. But it's all you need is a small percentage of your money to do stuff. If you think about, depending on how much money you have, 5 to 10% could be massive. So you could go 1 to 2%. You could go 1/4%. You could go, 1/100%, 1,000,000%. However rich or poor you are, you can do something with money in markets like this. But the advantage is, if you have some money, you actually can do things that you actually have. You have options. And I'm not just talking about the actual options trading. I'm talking about you could use shares, you could use options, you could use other derivatives, you could trade the bond market. That, if you have enough money, you can just hold bonds and collect premium, collect yield. I collect premium, they collect yield, because they're just sitting around getting that slow drip, 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 which is fine if you actually have a good amount of money. That slow drip of money adds up over time, because time just goes on and things change slower than you think. And it's really nice to actually have a little drip of income coming in, even if it's a tiny bit. If you have a couple $100, a couple thousand even, like, you could throw it in and do something at some point in your life and actually make a difference. And I'm not saying all of it. I'm saying a little piece of it. You could say, all right, I'm going to take 5% of my money, even if that's like $5 or whatever, or less. What if it's 5 cents? It doesn't matter. But in reality, you're going to have to be putting in dollars in these kind of programs. So if you just take $5, $10, $20, whatever it is, and you experiment with that after you've already been experimenting on paper for a long time. That's the key. You do it on paper for a long time, because I promise you the pain's going to suck. And it's much nicer if it's fake money than if it's the other fake money, the kind of fake money we use, because all money's fake. Yes, I get it. But you could use like a second level of fake money to it to protect yourself from the real pain, but still have some of the emotional connection so that it actually does hurt and you get a taste of what it's kind of like. Because when it's real money and you're throwing so much of what you have at something, is it your last ditch effort and it doesn't work, it's pain. It's just absolute pain. And there are all kinds of things people do to try to make money. But the way I see it, with something like this, you can learn about money, and if it doesn't work out, you have that knowledge to help you as you continue in any other field. If you get any kind of job, any kind of a job that offers some sort of an investment plan, you'll be glad you did stuff like this, because you think, okay, well, now I know what they're talking about. I want a fund that pays me. I don't want to have massive fees. I want to know what the legal and tax ramifications are, and I want to be able to be in on the decisions enough to know what they're doing. And I'm not saying have influence, but just be like, hey, what are you doing? Just tell me what you're doing and why you're doing it in simple terms. Don't go crazy on me. Just be like, hey, this is what we think. This is what we believe. This is what we're doing. All right. It'll probably be what I think too, because there's a very simple way to invest. You don't have to fight it. You can just go with the crowd. Everyone's like, oh, you have to fight the crowd, fight the herd. It's like, no, you have to figure out the secrets of the crowd. You can't actually just sidestep it and do everything. You're trying to use the momentum of it and the ability of it to do what you need to do. And the only way you're going to do that is if you sit there and actually look at it yourself. Eventually, did he take off? He took off. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you understand something about something. So you don't even have to do any kind of trading or investing. You can do anything with money. You could work for a finance company. You could be interested in it. You could just pay attention to financial media and what they're doing, try to learn about what they're saying and seeing if you actually agree with it or not. Because sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's hard to understand, but sometimes it's really simple and they make it look like it's difficult. Let's go with these other ones here. They're all green now because we're just sitting here fighting this stuff. But anyway, so let me get back to the point at hand, which was this Virgin Galactic trade. So I bought the upward plays, took the profit on the one because that's all I had, and I was really upset about it. Repositioned myself in the other direction, got the nice after-hour share offering, the freaking fantasy play. Decided, like, yeah, this makes sense. Because when you're trading, it's very, like, your luck is boom, ding, 17. All right, there you go. I live for that ding right there. That was my life back in the day, 17. So, yeah, you know what? The purpose of the night is complete. I got 17. I got that ding. But I want to keep going because I'm talking about stuff. So, I got that downward play. I bought some puts. Got in at the perfect time. Took profits for most of it. I would say about 80 to 85% of it today. And I kind of rolled things down later on instead of taking all my profits so that I could still collect a little bit if it continues. But if it goes in the other direction, it's not going to kill me. I'm not too, it's the plays, it would really have to move for those plays to hurt because I'm not taking a whole lot of risk on them. And that's the thing. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to take enough risk to end your career not even your career, just end your ability to do this if you're wrong? Or would you rather just take a little bit less in the gains department and be able to continue with some knowledge and eventually build up knowledge to where you can make more and more money? And the best way to do it, in my opinion, is just have like a investment account of some kind, whatever it is, as diverse as possible, and then try to do something yourself with a very tiny percentage of it. Because then you're hedging them and they're hedging you. If you just take your money and put it with somebody, you don't have a hedge against that because you're just kind of doing whatever they say. And most people don't have time to study all this stuff. So they're just like, oh, this sounds good, so I'm going to make this much maybe, and it's kind of secure and always goes up, right? Yeah, mostly over time, but there are times where it doesn't, and it may not forever, and you have to understand that. Because that's what most people don't understand is like, yeah, this is reality, dude. Things could go any direction. There's not protection from anything. That's the one thing is like getting in your head and thinking like, this has to happen. I'm calling upon everything I believe in to make this happen. Or like, no, dude, that is not a factor in trading. Whatever happens is going to happen. So you just need to be prepared to lose if things go really, really wrong. And that's why it's best not to make many trades and wait for the really, really important ones, which is what I did with this SPCE trade. I got in early months, got out a little early because I was upset with, I was having the pains, you hold the stock and it doesn't do what you think it's going to do in enough time, but it's good for it. And you're just like, I want to do something else with it because you get impatient and then you pay for it. But usually it's not a day or two later, which is super frustrating, but it still doesn't matter. I was up, I took those gains. And then I repositioned myself to the other direction, took those gains, and I'm seeing what happens from there. It was a really great week. And then there was the last trade was the debt ceiling. And, oh no, the Fed. That's what I'm forgetting. I completely forgot about the Fed. So I traded the Fed. That went well too. I grabbed a little pop and got out of there quickly. And then didn't do much after that because that's what I was thinking. I nabbed some little thing here and there. And then I think I had a loss on something. But they were all small plays. And then there's this. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trading sparse. I'm trying not to get very much. Because sometimes your over trading is what kills your gains. You get a little too confident. You jump in a stupid trade because you've been winning a bunch, which it is. That's the other side of the coin. I started to say, you got to take advantage of your luck. Luck is real in some form. I don't want to get in any kind of weird, like mystical or philosophical debate about it, but you tend to win for a while and then not win for a while. It's just get away from all the specifics of it. And when you're winning, it's best to go with your gut and keep winning. Don't overextend yourself because even when you're winning, you're still going to lose. So you just have to make sure you're actually paying attention to what you're doing. And the other thing is the opportunities are going to come up. That's why you're going to win and you lose. Now, it's really not like, this mystical luck thing. It's like, no, opportunities are there at the same time. So you get in on them. And from there, are we stuck? So you get in on them and you take your gains or you take your losses if it goes wrong. And with this, I decided to do that and then get out of it. So that was mostly what I've been doing. It's just been a really great few weeks, which is even better because I was in such a slump before that. I had this nice gain at the beginning of the year. If you look at the SPY, in fact, let me switch this over to the SPY real quick so that we can actually take a look at it. Since it's on the 4-hour right now, let's go to SPY and see what the SPY looks like in the 4-hour. Since I don't normally use this time frame, which is kind of interesting, and that's why it's taken a while, because it's Friday night and Thinkorswim is undergoing maintenance, so there's always going to be some delay on Friday nights. But I'm trying to get the main stock to come up, so hopefully it will. But it doesn't look like it's going to right now, which is too bad, because I guess we have the little screen here that we can do. So if it doesn't come up, then I'm going to go over here to this little screen. And you can see since last year, we've been on this uptrend, and this line right here shows the beginning of the year, which right at the end, we had a dump. So we had this nice bounce off of that, which I saw coming a mile away, took advantage of that, came up to this high volume area. These 3 lines show you the 3 areas in which volume, and in other words, trading of this stock, which is basically a proxy for the markets, is happening. And these are where most people decide to switch their positions, which is where they're going to set their risk point. So if you think about where are big institutions and individual retail investors going to sell, wherever the most volume is, because that's where all the trading's happening. And that's where people assess their risk. You don't have to get super complicated with it. You don't have to make all this huge deal out of everything. All you have to think is like, all right, there's a bunch of people trading. Where do they mostly do this? These levels and these price points line up together. It's not just price. It's not just volume. There's just people that are obsessed with volume and think it's all volume. There's people that are obsessed with price and think it's all price. I really like the price people because they're onto something and it's where it actually is. But they're not taking into account what the volume people are feeling. There is a sense that things shift, and that's what luck is too. There's this sense that you have it. There's a sense that things change on a level you can't explain, and it's better to go with the flow of that. And if you're not doing well, don't make a bunch of trades, and that's what I did. It was painful, but I took my gains partway up through this and then watched the rest of it go. But what happened? It hit a high volume level up here. This was a previous area of a lot of trading. This is where a lot of people are super underwater. This is where the bulls that got absolutely wrecked last time, let me get this thing, are sitting. They're waiting. They've been waiting for a year or more to get out of this position because they spent all this money on it when it was at super highs and when it was bouncing and stuff last year. But that's too bad. It's still not coming up. I guess I could just pull this over a little bit if I need to. So that'll give us that, and then I can, well, I'm just going to do that. So, yeah, you can see right here that this was coming up over time, and these levels were providing areas where it would sit for a while and would consolidate because there was a lot of trading. And that's where I would assess my trade decisions from. Their risk points are my trade decisions. I see it hanging here and going crazy in either direction. When it comes down strongly from a high, there's a good chance it's going to bounce. And what did it do? It came down here and hung out. People gave up on it because it didn't immediately bounce. I dove into this play, and boom. We're way up here at this point, teetering for a while. We were there. If I zoom in, we were at that point for a little bit. That's over here now because I zoomed in. And once it was retesting the highs and not really going anywhere, and the volume was kind of dropping, and it was just looking like, we're not moving. We've been here for weeks now, and this is what happened. So I got out of that. Felt really good about it, and then didn't quite get in as much as I wanted here. But when we started consolidating, I was looking at it on these dips and thinking it's not going down, and the volume's kind of staying steady at the average volume level down here. But it's coming up and it's sitting there. So this would be a good place to set risk if you were either getting in or you just got out and want to get back in. And that's what I did. I looked at this point as a great place to actually make some money. We had a nice gap right there. And we kind of hung out for a little bit, so I took advantage of that. But then I sat on the sidelines, didn't catch a bunch of that afterwards, because I think this was after the Fed and everything else here. So I took a little bit. Oh, that's what. So yeah, that was the Fed. I took a little bit of it, but not everything, and got in on some shorts, and then switched it around. And now I'm out of it. So we were sitting at a point that was looking really nice. We had this bounce off this high volume level. It was where I decided to let things go. But for the most part, if I still had little plays on, because I let most of my stuff go at certain points, but then I hold little points. So wherever I say I let stuff go, I'm usually still holding a little bit of it at that point. If I have such a big win that I can continue holding something into oblivion, even though it's like you could just take that whatever amount and put it into something else. Yeah, you're right, but it's such a small amount compared to everything else that it may be worth keeping on the table for certain things, like the market. If you just doubt everything all the time and you're not watching how things are flowing, you're going to get run over by stuff like this. It's okay to short, but you got to do it at the right times. when things are coming down off of these levels and they're not getting past it and volume's dropping and everybody's kind of being more and more negative, and you see every day price is like getting lower and lower. So you're paying attention to where price is at any given moment and then sort of averaging it and seeing what happens. You get this sentiment where things are not looking good. And these volume points are great places for that to happen. And it could happen in the other direction too. Like when it gets there and it's continuously coming back from its drops, that's very bullish. And eventually gets to a point where there's not a lot of volume in the history of the chart. So there aren't enough people to hold it at a certain level if there's a mania or a panic or whatever it is. So it moves much stronger in between these areas of large volume than it does at these areas of large volume. That's extremely important. So that's why I took advantage of that and am looking at this market like, are we going down? I don't know. I seriously doubt that even if we come down a little bit more, that we're really crashing. I mean, we just hit a point we haven't hit in a very long time. Last time we were at this point was, let's see, where were we? Last year in let's see, September, August, not even there yet. This chart doesn't go back far enough. So at over a year. This is the highest point we've been, well, before we rebounded a little bit, in over a year, and we're still up at that point. So there is volume, but not as much as there is down here and at this point, so specifically now, because we were in this zone for a long time. So I really haven't been doing very much in the game. But that's been the thought behind all this. It's looking good right now, not necessarily because everything is perfect, but because we have the ability to continue to go higher with the financial system as it is. I'm turning the tack off. This is on like crazy. You know, there are limits to what can happen with everything. That's the whole point of the laws and the system itself. It's like, is it corrupt? Yeah. Is it broken? Yeah. But there's a way that it functions that you could actually just sit there and make money off of as any given person. And it's not something that anybody wants to close up. In fact, it's something people want everybody in on, because they do make a lot of money off of it. They make money off of people that trade on emotion and make stupid decisions. And you're going to still make them even the smartest trader in the world. But if you continue as you do, you can eventually make the right decisions enough to move on and minimize the bad ones. And you get to a point where you can drift on that. You at least have knowledge, even if everything fails. And you never put yourself above the absolute bottom you're willing to fall. That's why I don't like borrowed money. That's why I don't like margin, even though people can use leverage for so much good. It's actually a really positive tool if you learn how to use it and you have the experience too, because it was meant to accelerate people, and it really is good if it's used properly. It's amazing. The problem is people gamble with it and then they get in trouble and then they're stuck forever because they're making stupid decisions. But if you get yourself to a point where you're okay with that, in fact, I think the best thing to do with leverage, if you're actually going to use it, well, number one is not to use it, but if you do use it, take a chunk of your money, put in some separate account so only that little piece is responsible for leverage. And don't go beyond your means to pay that back. Because if things go beyond that and you get a margin call, you're screwed. Whatever your plans are done, because you have to either sell everything or get the money somehow or be in like crazy debt and do all this stuff. So it could be rough. And if you don't put yourself in that position, even if you're growing slower, you're still growing faster than the guy that's in prison because he went crazy with stuff. You know, like, it's better to just slowly move. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get some XP. I got the next level. I'm talking and not even getting everything. I'm not even joining in on these fights, which I should be, because I've been trying to make the, resolution to actually play more instead of just sit there. But it's so hard to play and stay on these thoughts because I have so many of them and I have to get them out in such a precise order to make sense, and I still don't make sense, but I'm trying. So we got Tormented Dead. I'll go get it. So I'm in on the getting right now. Tormented Deads. Man's gonna get life tapped. There we go. That's how we go. Here, Unrest, making that money. You actually make decent money here in Unrest. Find steel weapons if you're lucky, but there's some bronze ones here and there, especially with these kind of characters and jack-o'-lanterns and stuff. So you can make a few plat. When you've been struggling to make gold, you get to a point where you're making plat the way you used to make silver, which is nice. And it's not always like that. When there are a lot of people here, you're not going to get as much loot. And back in the day, not everybody had their auto loot on, or they're splitting on. So you'd have people that would be taking all the loot, and then people would say, "Hey, can you put your split on so we can all get it?" Like, "Oh, I totally forgot." Well, that seemed to happen the last 3 times I was in a group with you. You know, it's like people knew what they were doing, but that's part of human nature, and that's what made the game interesting. Is you actually had to be a good person to be the kind of player that people wanted to group with. You couldn't just like go through the motions or whatever. You had to actually put in some real participation, which was kind of cool. But at the same time, like you got some bullshit ass people. Stuff went down, man. Stuff people have no idea the kind of stuff that went down at Everquest. Everquest was lurk. Everquest is the most lurk game that's ever existed. But if you think about like World of Warcraft, and all the weird stuff that happens with players in that game, you have no idea what the Wild West is like. It's amazing. And no, it'll never be experienced again. It was such a short period of time because we learned quickly, and just a few years at the most, and boom, we have this society of today. And that's what Virgin Galactic kind of represents too. It's just this next step into the future where space tourism is just a random thing. It was always in science fiction movies. It's like, oh, haha, isn't that cute? But it's not practical because it's expensive and wasteful and dumb, is what we would think. But there's more to that story. It's not all expensive and wasteful and dumb. It's a way to expand our knowledge that could lead to things we can't even comprehend right now. And they could be bad, they could be great, they could be neutral. It's something we haven't had access to before, and it's going to expand our minds. And I think it's a fool's error not to pay attention to stuff like that. Like, I'm trying to take this thing and taunt it off to do. How's my taunt? My bash. See, that's why I wanted to be, instead of just a warrior with dual wield or 2H, I wanted to get in there with the shield and be able to stun them when they're getting in there, taunt them, get them off people. If they're trying to cast a spell that could devastate us, just stop that spell with stun. That makes so much of a difference. It's amazing to have that capability now. So that's why I like being a Shadow Knight, man. I got that little stupid sacrificial pet, which I don't even have up because he's in the way. Sometimes they're just in the way. They're pulling stuff, or if they're not, that's kind of been fixed mostly in the modern game. But back in the day, your pet could pull stuff on accident. And it was crazy, man. It got rough sometimes. I'm gonna pull that. It's a blue. We're high levels now. That's what happens. You get to a point where you know what's up, and it's not even that big of a deal. This would be so terrifying and awesome back in the day. Like, oh my god, I'm in this undead area with the super realistic graphics and the skeleton. It's this world, and I'm adventuring, and I'm not a stupid weirdo. But I am a stupid weirdo. But now I have something fun to do. I think that's why I get along with some of the people I do, because I recognize stupid weirdos. A bunch of us are stupid weirdos, especially the ones of us that want to pretend we're not. Nah, we're the most stupid weirdos of all. That's why I play this game, because I'm like the king of stupid weirdos. I got problems. And I'm killing skeletons, and it makes me feel good. I got level 17. Where am I at right now? I'm only 8% into this, 8.5%. You can see how slow it goes. Man, I could get an XP potion. Oh, that was part of the experiment. So this game, it got me. The drug of the game got me. At first, it's like, oh, it's a new server. I'm going to come and play. I haven't played on these in a long time, and maybe I've taken a break. So I'm going to buy an XP potion. I'm going to buy a little, a regen thing and a little haste, because that will help out. That's right. Oh, and I got to have Sao, of course, because it's just, what if I have to run? I don't want to have to die and go get my corpse. And, so you get to do that, which you couldn't do before. And that, to the people that played in that scarce environment and still having a scarce mindset, was important. It was like people in the Depression that had that Depression mindset for the next generation. Like the boomers were the kids that grew up in a very affluent society compared to their parents, and the difference in their viewpoint was massive. That's kind of what happens here on a lesser scale, really. So it's interesting to see where things have gone and what we've been what we're doing now. Because it's, as much as it's terrifying, it's also exciting. I'm actually really excited to see what happens. I was, in a bad place before, and I think I projected that onto where I thought the world was going to go. And now that it's a better place, I think I'm doing the same thing. And I think that's what we all do. That's why we're talking about optimist, pessimist, whatever, other philosophical names for those things. But really, it's like, just pay attention to both, because sometimes it sucks, but a lot of times you're mad that things didn't work out the way you wanted it to. So you're like hating what's going on and denying it and just, I don't want to think about it. But that's what we do sometimes. Sometimes we sit down when we meet to run over there and fight. Oh, a bronze axe. That's what's going on right there. Get that. Get that. Ooh, bronze axe. See, you could tell. There's some weapons you couldn't tell. The fine steel weapons or the bronze weapons look identical. But the bronze ones, the bronze axes from the little crappy axes, they have a different look. It's just, it's so satisfying. I have childhood memories of finding bronze on those things and winning them in a loot. And there was no auto loot system. You had to do it by the honor system. People just had to loot. It was free for all. People would loot steal. There'd be important events and boom, they'd just take it. There weren't protections. Now when people make games, they know that's the case, so they protect against it before the game even starts. Here it took months or years to protect against that kind of stuff fully. It's just a crazy, crazy environment, which was great about it. And I'm starting to wind down a bit a little on this whole thing because my main point was just to talk about the Virgin Galactic trade and say that I'm in that a little bit. I still think we have plenty of upside potential. I don't know how much downside we're going to have before that, though. If are we bouncing now or are we still going down? And these are just little relief rallies to continue the movement. I really don't know. I made my money and I'm just trying to catch a little bit more movement. If we go in the other direction, all my longs benefit, and I'm mostly in cash again, so I could just collect that yield. It's like when the environment sucks, that's what I'm realizing. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get those big explosive plays in this environment, but when you're not making any plays, you're actually making some okay money just sitting there. You don't even have to have millions of dollars. Even just a little bit is like, hey, I'm sitting in, I remember the reason I even noticed this is because I signed up and didn't pay attention to any of that. I just wanted to get going. I was in the mindset of I got to find this penny stock that goes to the moon and then get out. That's what happens. It's how you get in on these things. You get into desperation mode and you do that. So I get into that and it doesn't work. And now I'm just trying to manage it. I lost my train of thought on that, but that's kind of what happens at this point. So I'm thinking maybe we just pull for a little bit longer. Let's see. We're coming up on 11:30. At 11:30. Let's head back to the thing, and I think I'm gonna dump out. Oh, there's that dude. I was supposed to group with that dude. I totally forgot about it. That's too bad. I was grouping with some people last night, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing a stream. Come hang out." And with the badness of everything, I forgot to send a tell. I feel so bad about that. But he's sitting out there right now. We're dumping. That's too bad. And whatever. We'll go for another like 8 minutes, I guess, and then see where we're going. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I was looking at the thing. Burlyman 7. My cash made more than my stocks. Yeah. There was one point where it did. See, there you go. That's the thing people don't understand. They think just sitting on cash is not good, but you're not making money if you lose a bunch of it. Even if you have these great gains, you're going to have these great losses. It's just how the thing flows, because your confidence will get the best of you. And it doesn't matter. And it's not even your confidence, it's your logic. Because the logic is to continue on these trends or do this or whatever. Eventually you adjust the logic, but when you come in, there's a mindset that gets you into this place. But eventually, if you find that place where you can just sit and not make a move and realize, well, I'm getting paid to sit again, which is great. And that's one of the reasons I got into options. I like premium because you can get paid to hold the risk on something that you know isn't really going to happen. I think that's the next best thing. I think owning shares is the best way to go. But if you don't have enough money to actually make money owning legitimate company shares, then you're basically stuck with options as just a regular person. But yeah, if you have access to other things or then that, whatever, you can do that. But for the people that don't, they're just trying to get into stuff like that. Those are mostly your options right there. You're going to get in on whatever trading. Some people get you into crypto. I think that's good to have that as a hedge against the stock market, against everything else. But you don't have to go crazy in crypto because the way it moves, a little bit goes a long way. That's my favorite kind of play. The one where you don't have to put that much in. Like I have a small amount on each of the coins that I actually like, in the realm of the ones I can invest in on platforms that aren't being sued and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole thing's crazy. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep it over here where I'm sitting on the sideline with just enough to where if it tanks, I'm not completely dead. I'll definitely be pissed, but it's not enough to knock me out of the game completely. So I have that as a hedge against everything, and then have some cash because it's growing in with yield right now. Not to mention, it's good to have cash to make plays if a good one comes up. I just made my money on these different plays, so I don't want to push it too far. And just sitting around waiting for the next thing. So that's my mindset now. Just watch what happens and react to it. Don't try to catch everything. I got my lucky two-way play with that Virgin Galactic pump dump. That was perfect. I mean, I rarely get that lucky. And I know when I do, it's good to go with that play continually a little bit. It's not about going and finding a different one and trying to be the best or whatever, try to find the best, make all the million. It's more like usually when I'm this right and this kind of a situation happens, it continues to go for a little bit. It might be rocky, but I think there's some more. So having something on the table so you don't completely miss it is insurance that you won't feel terrible later. That's the thing. It's like the how I feel when I don't trade sometimes overpowers how I feel when I do trade. And this is a way to balance that properly. And we got beetles galore. Got to get the ones off of the mage. I probably don't. The mage is fine. We're high enough to where this isn't even a big deal. Although we are in the old school days, so we don't have armor. Neither one of us has stuff. This dude's got cloth, I think, from the last I heard. So, I'm sorry about that, McMurphy. If you got the, if you you'll be good with cloth. It's like, think about your pet. What if you didn't have your pet? Like, what if you just had some magic spells and you had to deal with stuff hitting you? You imagine how much crappier that class would be? Well, that's a wizard. Yeah, the wizard has a little bit better magic than the mage does, but it's not to the point that it outweighs the pet. The pet's disgusting. It's like a 10-1 in favor of the pet. I have a wizard. Wizards are fun. They can port. They can do other things. They can kite things, which it's hard to do as a mage. I don't think you really have much of that. Maybe there's like a spell or two that's sort of a DOT, but you're mostly just blasting stuff. You're summoning things. You're working more with your pet than with your actual attacks. But what's unfair is your attacks are still almost as good. They're basically, I would say, like 95% as good as a wizard. And a wizard is supposed to be all about the attacks and stuff. So it's just so overpowered to be a mage. And you have the diversity of pet, whereas the necro only has the one. Although I think there's some kind of undead charming. I keep doing that. I think I'm sitting when I'm not. There's some kind of undead charming with them, and then enchanters, they can enchant whatever they want. So it's a whole different environment. It's not just your little 4 pets or your 1. It's like anything can be your pet. You can go anywhere, do anything. Basically, the enchanters are the ultimate gods of the game. It's just much more complicated to learn how to do that. But with a mage, you can literally just go like, all right, pet, go get him. I'm going to blow it up until I don't have mana, and then we'll go sit, and then I'll do it again. And if something attacks me, I'll be able to either win because you'll just beat it, or I'll be able to get away in time because you're strong enough to hold it off me. If I blast it, I'm going to pull the attention of the thing, so I can't blast it too much, which is why the pet is great. It just does it for you. You can sit there and eat your cereal and do it. That's what I used to do all the time. I was wondering why I was like fat as a kid. Well, I'm eating a bunch of cereal all the time, and I'm sitting in a chair playing this game where I don't have to press very many buttons. Right now, I'm not doing anything. I could sit here and I should be getting taunt and bash. But this thing's so weak, I'm not even worried about it. I'm just kind of sitting back and talking about what I'm doing. So we're getting up here closer to 11:30. That time I'm gonna dump out of that. I might wrap it up here on EQ too. I want to work on the stream a little bit since there's still so much more to do. Hopefully the sound quality was decent. I'm gonna listen to it later. I just had a little bit of time to get it going. I had to make sure this mic even worked, and it's a completely different setup. But in the earphones and from the recording I took beforehand, I was surprised. These little head mics don't usually sound very good, even if you get the high quality ones. But this one is not bad from what I heard. So we'll see how this show went, and when I can EQ it a little bit, how much better it'll sound, or worse, depending on if I overdo it, which is very possible. But that's what I like to do with these kind of things, since they're smaller mics, is maybe add a little bit of low end to it, see what the mids and the highs are doing. Usually the highs are pretty good, and the mids are usually decent too. And I think that's what I'm looking for in the mic is decent mids, because a lot of people scoop it, which it's good for scooping. It isn't bad. I'm tired of the people like, oh, stupid scoop and blah blah. No, scooping's amazing. It's the best thing. It's the fucking best thing you can do, dude. Scooping the mids, that makes everything better. It gives you the bass and the clarity of everything. That's what you're trying to do. But yeah, you're cutting the heart and soul and the realness of the sound. Yeah, the terrible parts. That's what you're trying to say. The terrible parts of the sound that you have to tolerate. That's what the mids are, where our attention is focused on the shit that's the hardest to hear. All the pleasant stuff is in these outer regions. So we can just sit back and be like, oh, this is great. No, it sucks. But if you find beautiful stuff in that dog shit, then you found the best stuff at all, which is why I love music. It's amazing. And then you get bored of it, which kind of sucks too. So I kill some skeletons, wrap it up for the night. How am I on the level here? 13%. Not bad. That was part of the comparison to see how different it was from the potions. Because that's what I started to say earlier. I'm addicted to those potions. I started doing it because the server started, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it because it's fun. You're gonna gate? Yeah, you can go ahead and gate, McMurphy. We're at 12:30. Let's do. Is there anything to pull real quick? Nah, there's nothing really left. All right, yeah, let's go ahead and gate. I'll hang out for a second. I'm gonna origin, but it's not hard to get back. It used to be that you had to take the boat and it took forever, but right now, all we're doing is origining back home, which is an ability you didn't have initially. Only certain classes could gate, and that was the advantage of being them. Yeah, they would get beat up so easily. Gear was so terrible that your average caster was just getting annihilated in the early game. But later in the game, things got a lot better. And that's kind of what happened with this. They eventually figured stuff out and how to play the classes and how to adjust the classes. A bunch of classes got nerfed. Necro, I think, used to be the best, but it got absolutely destroyed. And Bard too. Bard was probably one of the best classes at one point in time that they ever had because of all the abilities you got at once. And with the Bard, you didn't have to stand still. That was the thing about it. It's like, yeah, an Enchanter is technically better than a Bard as far as about all the areas it's involved in, but a Bard is so much more versatile. A Bard can just do whatever it wants to do, and it's got a little bit of protection and a little bit of fighting ability if it needs it. It's very interesting. But they changed that. They nerfed Enchanters because Enchanters were insane too. Charm was a big deal. At one point, Charm was so powerful they had to cut that back. So there are a ton of things that happened to this game, and we learned, and that's what you do. You kind of you cast your net, and you see what you catch, then you adjust it from there. That's what they did, and these games like Warcraft built on that. And then Warcraft became an old game, and now we've got a new generation of games that even learned from Warcraft, which is amazing to me. So this thing is, three generations, 4 generations removed at this point, depending upon how you look at it. Maybe like 100 generations removed if you're paying attention to a smaller time frame. But I'm paying attention to the time frames that the longer term time frames and the shorter term time frames, because you get a better picture if you actually see everything and then can step back and analyze them together. I think it's important. That's why I like technical analysis along with fundamentals. I don't like just one. That's why I like price and volume together, because they talk about the same thing, but they do it in a different way. And it's really interesting to see how things move around volume levels versus price levels. Price levels dictate any possibility. So that's always my first course of action. Like, these price points are the quick turnaround points. But when you back it up and you're looking at huge amounts of money moving over long timelines, then volume starts to play more of a role in the dictation of where these price levels are set. Because you see so many. I was watching this guy the other day. He's been trading for like half his life or so long. He's putting 1 million price levels, and I mean, not 1 million. It was like, I don't know, 10 or something. But that's still, it's like, oh, okay, 10 possible places. How are you going to divide up your money to that standard? What are you trying to do? Like, it's just there's so many points that you could be wrong or right, how you're setting your trades. It's much easier if you can simplify that. And if you're really good, like that's the thing, you've been trading forever, you're really good and you can do that, great. But for those of us that can't, we need other indicators. We need to feel a little safer with our money, because it takes a long time to get comfortable with trading, and people don't realize how painful it is at first, because you're going to get in and you're going to make a mistake and it's going to suck, and then you're going to make more mistakes. It's not that first big mistake, it's the ones you make after that. It's the ones that make you think, do I even want to do this? Why am I doing this? Is worse. I've lost so much money trying to learn how to do this. Is it even worth continuing? Well, if you're responsible, then yes. If you're irresponsible, then no. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. Irresponsible people should just not do anything. Like, just relax until you become responsible, because at a certain point you'll want that. The younger you are and the less overhead you have, the more you want to do all crazy shit. But the older you are, the more you're looking at the long-term time horizon anyway, and you're looking at stability. Like, yeah, I know. When you don't have anything else to care for, you're ready to go destroy everything to move on. But when you have stuff to care for, you're like, oh crap, I actually have to continue with what's going on. And then you realize most of the world does that. It's not the people that want everything to get destroyed and start over in this perfect image of what you think it is. Most people are kind of working in cohesion. That's what the economy is. It's huge, and it's everywhere from the biggest industries and governments to the individual person. They're all interacting in this system, and it's keeping it afloat. The belief in it is. As long as it continues to, it'll go. And the people that think it's going to get destroyed might be right. It might at some point, and it could be tomorrow, and it could be so long from today. But the odds of that happening are low, because if you look at what it takes to change stuff like this, you need the stuff itself, and you're not going to get it. It's going to be hard to change. It's going to have to change naturally the way it always has, for trial and error and terrible things happening and us correcting that. That's what we're going to get. That's what I believe we're going to get, because that's what we continue to get. Sometimes things are better, sometimes things are worse. They fluctuate. It's how it goes. But it's going to continue on a trajectory, and that trajectory is up. It's highly up. It's not just a little bit. It's not, oh, look at this baby. No, it's massively up. We are in a squeeze right now of this, the thing. Like, if there are any entities that did anything, like if they bet against us, and it's squeezing right now. That's how up we are. I'm not saying that's actually happening, but if something like that was happening, it is like squeezing based on like the universe betting on us or whatever. Like, that's what our trend looks like. It looks like a huge squeeze. So yeah, it's going to slam back down at some point. But is that some point now, or is that some point 10,000 years from now, 1 million years from now? Is that point 10 years from now? Is it 5 years from now? Is it a month from now? I don't know, but the odds are that it's going to be longer than most people think. I think most people are convinced everything is going to go to shit sooner than it actually will. because it has staying power, has momentum. They're not paying attention to the momentum. They're only paying attention to morals. Look at the momentum. If you want to move anything, where's the momentum going? You're going to have to shift that. It's not just instantly going to stop because it's support for the regular stuff. It's not the support for all the bad stuff. It's the support for the functionality of the entire thing that allows you to function and fight the bad stuff. It's the whole thing all in one. And if you can ride that, you can see that the trend continues out with more people than it does not. So we are changing the system because everybody that doesn't like how it's behaving is putting in their effort to change. Well, not everybody, but some people are, and some really loud people are, and that could be good, that could be bad. It doesn't, either way, we're moving in some direction, and the momentum of the good stuff that we've done is overpowering the bad by at least enough for it to continue in the medium term. And that's what I'm looking at. We're going in a direction. We're not going to change unless there's something that says we're going to change. And that's what I want to wait for. So right now, I'm just sitting back. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think it's probably going to be a very long time before anything happens. But I'm ready for it if it happens tomorrow. That's why I trade the way I trade, because I know I'm not naive to the fact that that stuff could be happening. The bears are right. The question is when. They're wrong on the time. They're right on the info. That's the sad truth of reality. The bears are the bears, and they're there because they're right. But it's the functionality of the system that's holding them back. It's keeping them from being right at this point in time. But at some point, they're going to be right. So the best thing you could do is protect yourself against those crashes. Because if everything does crash, let's just say everything in the standard U.S. economy crashes. There's still other economies in the world that are huge, that are massive, and all of them together are big enough to continue on. There's just this net of safety along with the net of tyranny and stuff that comes with this whole deal. We're fighting against the bad parts, but we're trying to make the good parts better, and it's not going to happen quickly. So my best bet is to sit back and wait for the next trade and try to save as much money and as many assets as I can. Diversify those assets and make sure I have other things too. Other currencies, other forms of investments, other things that take you out of U.S. exposure are good too. I think you should have more. I definitely think you should have more than just the area you're in. I mean, the U.S. market is good to have no matter what economy you're in, but other economies are good to have in combination together too. It just depends upon where you are and what you know and what's going on with everything locally. So it's hard to tell what is what. And that's why it's best to go to financial advisors. Like if anybody wants to do anything and you hear this shit, you're like, oh, that sounds cool, but I could do that. Like, no, you can't. But I know people are going to try, and somebody will. Somebody could do it, but most people aren't. And you're most people. Like whoever's listening to this right now, I'm talking about you. You're most people. That's what I had to learn. I'm most people. I'm not special. I thought I was special. I want to be special. We all want to be special, but I'm not special. I'm just sitting here trying to play a game and make some money, and it's not going as quickly as I thought it would. But guess what? It's going. It's going years at this point. I'm looking at, whoa, at some point it's going to be a decade. It's not yet, but I'm coming up on 6 years, and that's pretty amazing for something that is this painful to do, because most people will give up in the first year or two. If you haven't given up by a few years in, see, that was the thing. I thought with a couple of years in, I still wasn't profitable, and that was the end of it. No. It's all about how you play it. And eventually I got to a point where I thought, oh, if I just slow down the amount of trades that I have and use a smaller amount of capital, I will just inch my way up until I get to a point where I can be stable with large chunks of cash. That's what I've been doing. I've been able to make bigger and bigger bets over time. Yes, there are losses. Yes, there are setbacks. The end of last year was awful. I got absolutely massacred after the trade, the Fed trade. I got massacred after the Fed, on the Fed. It was just mistake after mistake. Not just the Fed. The Fed was bad enough. It was a live, just absolute catastrophe. But then after that, there was all the like, oh man, the mental stuff. And you make another trade because you think it's the right way and you don't want to. And you know you shouldn't, but you do it anyway because your trading sense has now gotten to a point where you actually know how to do it. So you do it. And because you're mad when you don't and it goes off. But then it doesn't go off. You're like, I don't want to do it again. So you stay out of it, but then you see another one and you know you have to. And it's like, why are these ones that I never see at all starting to come up? But they're coming up during the time when everything's not going well. So the best thing to do is to not trade them unless you can do it responsibly, which is why I have these different accounts. Sometimes it's good to shut down one account. I mean, not shut it down, but not do anything in one account and just stick to the other one. Instead of using both, use one. And then in that one, if you only have one, limit yourself to a certain amount of capital or a certain type of trade. That's what I think it's best to, that's what's best to do when you're struggling, is limit yourself to something that you know well enough to be interested in. You don't have to be good at it yet, but if you're interested in it, limit yourself to trades around that specifically and don't think about anything else. Just include what the movement of the market is, obviously, and all the news and that stuff that you have to, but then narrow all of your focus onto that one thing until you find something that works. And it's still going to be tough, which is why I say paper trade. You know, if you're going to do stuff like this, it's better to do it with fake money before you actually put your real money in. And once you get some kind of a strategy that seems successful for a decent amount of time, then you can start putting little amounts of actual cash in and work your way up to whatever's comfortable. And the best thing to do is talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. Talk to professionals, you know, like that's the absolute number one thing. Although be wary of them, because it's not like everyone's going to be a good professional. That's why I do this stuff myself, because some people are scammers, man. If you go in and you talk to these funds, you'll talk to the big ones, the small ones, and you realize, big or small, there are scammers everywhere. They're just like shady deals going on, even at like the big firms, the small firms. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Not everybody's doing that, I'm saying, but you more often than you realize, you run into stuff like that. So I thought, with all this kind of stuff going on, I just want to manage enough of my own money to be able to make something if the management of someone else doesn't go. So that's all I'm looking at, is just taking a little bit of that, put most of it in a long investment that I trust, that's managed by someone else, taking a little bit of it in cash, and then taking the rest of it to trade. And invest. I mean, and the investments include things like crypto and cash and stuff like that too. So I'm kind of doubling up on on this stuff. I'm going with the same sort of things that I have long, but I'm also going with different things. That's why I have these trading accounts, because sometimes the herd is the way to go. I mean, that's why these trades that I just did are with the herd. I didn't fight the herd. I didn't try to be better than the herd and like alpha male at red pill and stuff like that. I was just like, hey, look at this trend. Most people tend to do this. I think I'm going to try to catch this one for a responsible amount. And boom, there you go. Went with it. Oh, there are other people that made millions and they suddenly came into so much money. Well, good luck keeping it. It's going to be hard. They may not. You never really know. So that's my cue. I think I'm going to dip out for the night. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you coming in. This was fun. It's therapy for me to play a little bit of Everquest. I got a level. I talked about my trades. The trades went well. I'm doing good right now. So I'm just going to hang out and wait. I'm not going to push my luck. This is Stocklips. Check out the social media down below. If you're interested in the Discord server, come on, hang out. It's a small group of people that actually want to discuss stocks and are seriously in positions and trying to better their knowledge and are real about it. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate that. I will see you next week. Have a good night. Stay safe.